Good afternoon, guys. Yesterday, just a brief statement about yesterday. Obviously, it's good to walk into this room under these circumstances. You win the football game, and everybody contributed to that, every phase, so we're excited about that. The players did an excellent job of executing and just making sure that the signatures of what we want to be about were all over the field in certain situations yesterday. That's not to suggest that we were perfect, but I was really excited about the effort, about the energy, about how we worked together yesterday, and especially the production. Those things really stood out. And then the coaching staff did a nice job preparing the players, putting them in the right positions, making sure the things that we emphasized relative to the game plan specific to the Cowboys, that the players understood those things, and that we made the appropriate adjustments as we needed to as the game moved forward. So with that, I'll take your questions.
We have talked a lot with you the last couple of years about the defensive line rotation, managing skill set, age, athletic ability, and kind of spelling guys when they need to be spelled. What does that do when you see that rotation leads to the ability to have that energy and explosiveness in that last series of plays that kind of decided the end of the game?
It's everything, and it starts with the individual period. The individual period during practice is a grind. It's a grind, and it's for that particular situation at the end of the game. You want to have the technique, the fundamentals, the instinct, and the conditioning, mental and physical, to be able to produce in those situations, obvious passing situations where you can generate pressure with your front four. So it's everything. It's really what we aspire to be, and we got to continue to get better with that.
How dynamic some of the running backs y'all will face are this season. The fact that this group was able to eliminate the cutbacks so well with Elliott, what does that show you early on?
Well, that we're making progress. It really starts, Jordan, with the penetration up front, making sure we chase and squeeze the hip with the players away from the point of attack, and just making sure that everybody understands the run concept. Guys at the point of attack, and then the cutback players. Everybody has to be in position, and you have to really read your keys because you can get play action off of those things. And so once the key kind of defines itself, you have to make sure that you're in position to tackle the run. Everybody's a run defender, whether you're at the point of attack or whether you are a cutback player.
Could you take us through your thought process going into the game, kind of what you were thinking about in terms of blitz usage and how that changed and evolved as the game unfolded?
Well, we wanted to make sure that we had a nice mix of first and second down pressures, things that would give us a chance to kind of change the hitting points a little bit, Joe. And also, if we got a play action situation on first and second down, that would give us a fast, strong, extra rusher, especially if they're using extra people in protection. So you always want to, when you're playing our philosophy, when you're playing a 4-3 front, you want to be able to change the hitting points and then bring that extra rusher, if you will. And so you just got to have a nice mix of static, straight, front and coverage things, and then occasions where you incorporate those.
And as the game unfolded, obviously they're in a position at the end where they're having to throw every down. But you weren't blitzing every time.
No. It was really strategic, based on things that we had seen, based on things that I wanted to do in terms of trying to create a little bit of imbalance, and the players did an excellent job of executing.
Talking about the flow of the game and how he really liked what you were doing there. You guys have talked a couple of times about some things, and he made some suggestions. But this was your first real game, I guess, that's preseason, that you really made the calls. What's that like for you to go into that and no eyes are on you and what your decision making is going to be?
Well, David, I was extremely comfortable, and my level of comfort really goes back to the type of preparation that I had, and just making sure that I understood the opponent, that we put together a really good game plan, and I had to make decisions in a hurry. When you start to mix in tempo, you've got to make quick decisions based on what you believe, what you feel, and some of the things that they've demonstrated and shown on tape. So I felt extremely comfortable, and it's a good start for all of us.
Any quick decision you made that really stood out in your mind, like, man, I really got it there?
Say again?
Any decision you made really quick when you felt like, hey, I really got it with that one?
Well, the first half, I think I had a good idea of what I wanted to do, And I was real happy with the calls that I made in the first half in particular. And the game continues to evolve. I mean, you have to make adjustments as you go. All of a sudden now you show something and they kind of see it. You have to make sure that you move to something else, or you get the benefit from what you've done. So I feel really good.
So always the way Luke played, he seemed to be all over the field.
Yeah.
What you think of his game?
He was outstanding. I mean, and that the way you described it, I would use the same terminology. I mean, he played out of his mind. I mean, but I mean, for Luke, without taking that for granted a little bit, that's who Luke Kuechly is. I mean, he's one of the best, if not the best, at his position in the National Football League, and so intelligent. Can trigger athletically. I mean, he can do a lot of things for you on the grass, but he was really key at diagnosing some of the things that they presented to us, and just add great effort and violence to the football.
We don't talk about Wes Horton that much, but he has 1.5 sacks. Just how important is he to that whole operation?
Well, we talk about him a lot, and Wes. I mean, this is his 6th season, and every year he's gotten better and better. Wes does a lot of the things. Wes is a huge factor player for us, and that's not to suggest that he doesn't attain some of the other production things that stand out. But Wes will do things that don't necessarily show up on the stat sheet. Like, for example, one of the pressures we had yesterday, Wes slanted into the B gap and took on 2 blockers, the tackle and the guard, and then David Mayo is able to scrape clean and make the play. That's extremely important to how that play concluded. So Wes is that's what you get from him, and Wes continues to grow as a one-on-one rusher.
What has he done to go from a few years ago he was on and off the roster to week 1 now he had the most snaps out of any of the defensive linemen?
Well, I got a similar question earlier this week about Mario. I mean, Wes has grown. First of all, he's taken it upon himself to just really continue to develop and to work on the things that you have to do to be productive in this particular system and scheme. He just works at it. He grows, and he doesn't take anything for granted. And sometimes, position fundamentals. I mean, that's not a sexy answer, but it's real in our business. You know what I'm saying? It's real in terms of a guy being able to really, really execute and do his job at a high rate of efficiency.
So just to go back on that first half really quickly, the offense had 23 plays in Dallas territory, and while you guys managed to hold Dallas to no plays in Carolina territory. Could you talk about some of the biggest factors that contributed to such a positive start?
Well, I'll say this, in terms of our offense complementing what we're trying to do defensively, anytime they possess the football, I mean, the time of possession kind of leans toward our offense, and then naturally their offense has a limited opportunity to possess and move the football. So I love it when we grind out long, time-consuming drives. That always benefits us. And I'll tell you, on a day like yesterday when it's hot and you're rotating guys and we're running to the football the way that we were, that really kind of preserves our energy a little bit. And then the other thing was we were efficient, very efficient on 3rd down. I mean, we really limited, so we were able to get off the field in a couple of downs. They were not very good in 3rd down. We were very good on 3rd down. So that really was a boost and a benefit to us.
What was it like for your game day routine to change and not be out there, for instance, in pregame running the D-line stuff?
At first, it was an adjustment. I'll acknowledge that, and it was something that I enjoyed. It was a bond that I had with that position group that I've been working with for a long time and that I still love. But when the role changes, you have to adjust. I mean, my role is different now, and I have tremendous confidence in the people who have assumed my former role. They'll continue the things that get our guys ready to play. But it was a big-time adjustment. But I'm extremely comfortable. I feel like I've made it. I'm not there in terms of everything being perfect. I've learned some things. Calling the game yesterday and the different situations that we found ourselves in as a defense. And my goal is to also continue to get better, Joe.
Mario, go ahead, Josh.
It seems like something that you really valued in the offseason is willing tacklers in the secondary coming up and making hits. A game like yesterday, it's obviously extremely important to come up and make tackles. what are you seeing from guys like Dante Jackson, Denoris Searcy as they come up and help in that run game?
Well, there's a buy-in. I mean, a lot of times your defense is defined by a couple of things. The willingness of the corners to tackle, and also the ability of your interior guys to chase the football, especially when it goes outside on the perimeter. Dante Jackson had probably one of the most impactful plays for his young career, and it wasn't a play where he was involved in coverage. It was a play where he was, backside pursuit, the ball cut back. We were great at the point of attack. Everybody was fitting their responsibilities, and he made a great tackle on an explosive running back in terms of Ezekiel Elliott. So that was as impactful as anything. So there's a buy-in. It's incredibly important that our corners tackle, that they understand how to tackle, and that they do it at a high level and a good efficiency.
Eric, Mario said yesterday that there was just kind of this mutual understanding that during that last series, when they knew they had a shot to seal the game, that you were going to just cut them loose. Can you take us behind the curtain a little bit of that trust factor and what that conversation is like as it happens?
Well, when we get to third down, we have what we call our green system. And with a lot of our calls, Jordan, there is some pretty specific responsibilities that each member has on a particular call. But when we get to third down and we call green, whatever, there's a lot of ownership and a lot of autonomy given to the front to organize the rush and to execute what they want to do. I mean, we talk about that, we'll discuss it, we'll make sure that we have a menu, but they're the ones who have to call it and execute it. And they have to all be on the same page, especially with a quarterback that can extend the play and get outside of the pocket. And so, and then they have to do that when they're weathered a little bit, when they're tired, and you've played 60 snaps under the circumstances and conditions that we did yesterday. So they have ownership in that situation. We monitor that, we make suggestions, but they're the ones that have to go out and do it. And yesterday, KK and Mario did a nice job of working together in that situation to get us in the right rush configuration and to get the quarterback on the ground.
Did you know them so well at this point, though, that trust that you give them to make those calls and make those plays? When do you see kind of them click into that higher gear when you just know it's going to work?
Well, hopefully by the time you work, you're building and cultivating that during the off season, and you start over. Even though we've been fortunate to have two guys working on the same side for a number of years now, we kind of rebuild, reestablish, reteach that entire process as soon as we start. And so once we get through the preseason, you're hoping to see that communication, and you're hoping to see the concepts, the cleanness of the rush games. You're hoping to see those things, and by the time you get to a point where it counts, it needs to be clicking.
I think Pep played about a third of the defensive snaps. Was that about what you envisioned, and is that about what you envision moving forward?
Well, I don't know if we have a set number. I think it's a fluid concept. It just kind of depends. Pep did a great job yesterday, and with the way we have managed his training camp and everything, I thought he had a nice first game. I anticipate that he's going to be a lot more impactful as we move forward. But he did a really nice job yesterday.
What's the checklist of success? Is it like under 17 points, under 100 yards? I'm missing stuff, aren't I?
Yeah, the first one is to win. On the defensive goal board, the first thing up there is win the football game. And sometimes the circumstances will be a little bit different, and we're not necessarily looking for style points. We want to do our part in making sure that at the end of the day that we're on the right side of the score. But the first one is to win. The second, we want to create a certain number of takeaways. Then we want to force the opponent into a certain number of 3-and-outs. We want to put our offense in a position to score. So when we take the football away, we want that to lead directly to points for us, and then we want to score on defense. And so those are the things that we measure. We measure our performance against every single week.
I assume you guys beat your goal of the third down success, or you matched it.
Yeah,
in terms of the first half, I mean, they were 0 for 6.
Yeah, we were excited about that, and that's where you want to be. If we can be efficient, the efficiency areas, we look at those, and I look at them going into the locker room at halftime. There's certain things that we say determine games, and that's third down efficiency, red zone, tackling, takeaway, where you are in the red zone and points. Those are the things that ultimately determine games, and so we really focus on those things a lot.
I'm guessing you had.
Your early thoughts on the Falcons.
Say
Early
again?
thoughts on the Falcons and what you got to do against them.
Well, I mean, you know, they're led by one of the best quarterbacks in pro football. I mean, they've got an offense that can produce a lot of points. I mean, so we'll have our hands full. We'll have to have a great week of preparation, a good plan, and just make sure we understand exactly, you know, the challenge that they'll present for us. But like I'll say this every week, it's just as important that we understand who we are. I mean, we won't change that or change our approach because the opponent changes from one week to the next.
In their opener, they really, and it was a theme from last season for them too, really struggling in the red zone. What have you seen people doing against them, and in particular with Julio in the red zone?
Well, I'll say this. As far as I don't see them struggling in the red zone. They will always get the highest benefit of the doubt from me. And whatever they did or didn't do, as far as we're concerned, we got to make sure that first of all, we're limiting their opportunities. We understand exactly what we want to do in those situations, which means stopping the run. As far as their execution is concerned, I'll let them worry about that. But we know that when they get in that part of the field, Joe, that they can produce as many points. They're capable of producing as many points as anybody. So we just have to be ready.
You mentioned how Luke played out of his mind, 13 tackles, kind of backed that up. But first game without Thomas, what did you make of the way that David and Shaq sort of filled in, and the linebacking corps, I guess, comprehensively? How did you feel they played?
I thought they did a fantastic job. I mean, the first play of the game was a negative play. David Mayo tackle for loss on the first play. I mean, David is our linebacker and core, and just, you know, in general. I mean, we love the guys that start, and we've added some really good young players. And the tradition has been the next man has to step in and do a great job. So I was really excited with how David Mayo played. Obviously, we talked about Luke, and then Shaq Thompson was impactful also, getting the sack in a backed up situation, which put them behind the sticks. So linebackers did a heck of a job.